rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here we are again in our, 8th lecture, okay? And today's lecture, in today's lecture, we'll start our first, short story that is very much famous in children's literature and very much famous among children. And this story, is known, in different languages, in many languages, including Arabic, اللي هو the little Red Riding Hood، اللي هو بالعربي بسموها اللي هي زي ما بسموها اللي هي ليلى والذئب. Okay, ليلى والذئب. يعني in Arabic is very famous and well-known short story for children. In this lecture you will have two files attached to this lecture, اللي هو PowerPoint file, and there will be a PDF file, that has, a complete edition of Little Red Riding Hood, very well illustrated and beautifully illustrated, so you can read it from either the contents, the PowerPoint file, or from the PDF file with the beautiful illustration. And the PDF file is meant just to show you how beautiful illustrations, the illustrations used to be used to go with the show, with the stories related to children. Okay, so please don't forget to watch these pictures and to see these pictures and read the text from the PDF file, along with the beautiful illustration. A Little Red Riding Hood. So just from the title, and just telling you the Arabic title of this story. So I think most of you, if not all, are familiar with it. But in English, it's called Little Red Riding Hood, and that is, the name of the protagonist, the hero of the story, who is a little, child, a little girl, a very beautiful, sweet girl, whose, grandmother once, gave her a red cloak with a hood on which she always wore, so that people called her Little Red Riding Hood. So she was called Little Red Riding Hood for the cloak with the hood that, the grandmother once gave her. Okay, from the very beginning of the story, you see the characteristics of the, let's say, of most of the stories written for children. They start, with not a specific time, place, and not with, specific even names of characters. So it starts, once upon a time, there was once a father, a mother, a grandfather, a little, sweet, beautiful lady. So you don't find any kinds of names mentioned in, most of these, stories meant for children. And this is one of the major characteristics of stories written for children. One main reason for this is just to make these stories international, so children enjoy and enjoy reading these stories from wherever they are and whenever they are, so that's why no specific names, places, even time mentioned. So this story is about this little beautiful girl, of course this story is also originally a folk tale. Okay, it's a folk tale and it's a fairy tale. Okay, so it talks about a small little lady. Okay, little girl, who wants to visit, her grandma. Her mother sends her to visit her grandma and to take with her some food to her grandma. But in order to do this, she must walk through, and to get to her grandmother, she has to go through the woods, through dangerous woods, alone by herself. And along the way to her grandmother, she meets a big bad wolf, which is an animal, of course, a wild animal that would eventually eat her grandmother. The story gives you just details about how things go, how the mother asks her daughter and what to do, to send the some food to her grandmother in the forest. Her grandmother is sick, and the mother asked her daughter to go straight away to her grandma. But on the way, the lady, this beautiful lady, our little girl, just had her own time, and spent some time, enjoying the beautiful scenery in the woods, picking flowers here and there, dancing, and running and jumping, and picking flowers and singing. On the way she met a wolf, a wild wolf. Because she's a naive little girl, she did not know about this wolf and how wild this wolf is. So she tells him about her grandmother, and that she is going to give she's going to deliver some food to her grandmother. So the wolf goes before her to the grandmother and attacks the grandmother. And some stories, they say that the wolf eats the grandmother, and then the wolf takes the place of the grandmother on the bed. And when Little Red Riding Hood goes into the house of her grandmother, she notices the difference in shape of her grandmother. So she was asking her mother about how different she looks, how big her eyes, how big her nose, how big is her, how so big is her mouth, and every time the wolf answers with something sounds to be convincing. And then at the end she asks about, she says how big, what a big mouth you have. And then all the better, the wolf says, all the better to eat you up with, my dear. Okay, said the wolf, and jumped up to eat the Little Red Riding Hood. But she escapes, and then it was just by accident. The father was passing by the place, and he hears the scream or the screams of his daughter. He comes into the house, and he hits the wolf by the axe he has, and he kills the wolf, and the wolf dies. And then everyone lives happily at the end of the story. And this ending, everyone was happy that Little Red Riding Hood had escaped the wolf. Then Little Red Riding Hood's father carried her home, and they lived happily ever after. And that is also one of the main characteristics of most fairy tales and folk tales and stories for children. They end happily. They end with the young, having victory over the adults, or the old, older people, or the wild animals, or big animals. Here, the story, there's an introduction about the story you need to know, and you need to understand and remember. Little Red Riding Hood is a fairy tale for young children. This information is important about this story, Little Red Riding Hood. It is a story about a young girl and a wolf. The story comes from a folk tale, which means that it was a spoken story for a long time before it was a written story. Okay, it was first, this is important, it was first written down in the late 1600s. The best known version, because it was in different versions, it came up with in different versions. The best known version, the way the story is told of Little Red Riding Hood is by Brothers Grimm. Brothers Grimm. This name is very important and dates from 19th century, اللي هو 1800s and on. Grimm, who are Grimm brothers. Okay, here is a biography, short biography about Grimm brothers, because they are very important in the worlds of children's literature. They are two brothers, اللي هو Jacob Grimm, who was born 1785, and his brother Wilhelm Grimm, born 1786. Okay, then you read this biography. All what you need to read is just the first part of the biography, just what is related to children's literature and what they did to children with their in 1812 they published volume 1 of Children and Household Tales. Okay, and their interest in children's works and writing for children. Okay, remember this name is important, please, in the world of children's literature. Then we have Tales History, the history of Red Riding Hood, about the earliest version. The origins of Little Red Riding Hood story can be traced to versions from various European countries and more than likely preceding the 17th century. So it was known in different versions in different countries before even the 17th century, of which several exist, some significantly different from the currently known Grimm-inspired. The versions, there are different versions, and you find some differences between these versions. But we here, when we talk, down, about the early versions, 20th century, 19th and 20th century versions, the early versions of the tale differ from the currently known version in several ways. Okay, the old versions, they are different from the recent versions. The antagonist is not always a wolf. In most of the modern versions, the antagonist, اللي هو الباد guy, اللي هو الولف, or representing the wolf, is not always a wolf, but sometimes an ogre or a bzu, اللي هو werewolf بنسميه. Okay, اللي هو بيكون عبارة عن ogre اللي هو زي الغول، أو اللي هو المستذئب، زي شخص مستذئب أو شيء زي إنسان يتحول إلى ذئب في بعض الأحيان. Okay, اللي هو person transformed into a wolf. This is in modern versions. Okay, making these tales relevant to the werewolf trials of the time. Okay, just to make, the story fits the modern time. Then when we talk about interpretation, the story has many different interpretations, and here are some. It was understood by many different, scholars and interpreters or critics in different ways. Besides the overt warning about, the clear warning about talking to strangers, what we learn from this story, the warning about talking to strangers, there are many interpretations of the classic fairy tale. Many of them are sexual. Okay, here are some. A natural cycle, here one of the interpretations is about the natural cycle, okay, related in terms of the historical myths of other naturally occurring cycles. Here, her red hood could represent the bright sun, which is ultimately swallowed by the terrible night, اللي هو الولف. Okay, to about natural cycle. Alternatively, the tale could be about the seasons of spring or the month of May escaping the winter. Then we have also the idea of rebirth. Another interpretation, okay, is rebirth. اللي هو understood by Bruno Bettelheim in his book اللي هو The Uses of Enchantment, the Little Red Riding Hood motive in terms of classic Freudian analysis that shows how fairy tales educate, support, and liberate the emotions of children. Here it talks interpreted as a rebirth. The girl who foolishly listened to the wolf has been reborn as a new person. Here what is meant by rebirth, okay? Because she was rescued from death and not eaten by the wolf, as if she was reborn. So it was a new person. And next interpretation was moral lesson. Okay, children, especially attractive, well-bred young ladies, should never talk to strangers. Okay, يعني this is something moral that children know. Okay, especially attractive children, beautiful children. Okay, for if they should do so, they may well provide dinner for a wolf. Okay, يعني for a wolf here also can be sort of a symbol. يعني it doesn't mean just a wolf as a wolf, you know, and its literal meaning, and it could be a symbol of, you know, human being wolf, يعني human beast, يعني people who are in the form, يعني who are, sorry, let's say wolves who are in form of or in shape of human beings. Sometimes some people can be or may act as wolves. So children or other people should be, you know, be aware of these, you know, wolves who are, you know, I mean, who actually, يعني normal people, but they are inside themselves, they are beasts. They are just like wolves. So here there are also those who are charming, quiet, polite. These people who look like charming, quiet, polite, unassuming, complacent, and sweet, who pursue young women at home and in the streets. And unfortunately, it is these gentle wolves who are the most dangerous ones of all. So that's also another lesson for this, you know, story. Again, here, sort of repetition, meanings, interpretations of this story, which is almost the same. There are many hidden messages that can be found in this story, and there are different interpretations. The first type of interpretation اللي هو about morality, اللي هو moral lessons اللي الآن we have just talked about, just sort of repetition here, okay, of what is said, يعني repeating almost the same ideas but in a different way. The easiest message for children to understand is that it can be dangerous to trust strangers. Okay, and the morality, بعدين it's dangerous to trust strangers. بعدين a more adult interpretation في أن هي sexuality, about sexuality. Some people, you know, think that the story of the girl being eaten is really a symbol for rape. Okay, see the interpretation here. Okay, يعني having, you know, the little lady, little girl, you know, attacked by a wolf, or to be eaten, a trial to be eaten by a wolf was a symbol of rape, or symbol for rape. Okay, and that is by, you know, understanding by Susan Brown Miller, you know, wrote a book about this, interpreting this story from this point of view. Then next, some people who are feminists, who support this is another interpretation. Feminists, people, writers, critics who support, you know, the rights of women, they think that, you know, they say that it does not show women in a good way. This story, some people, some interpreters, critics, writers, scholars, who are called feminists, they say, they think that the story doesn't represent women and show women in the right way, in a good way. Why? Because they, this story shows, you know, this lady, Little Red Riding Hood, as a woman who is weak, dependent, who is naive, and who is subject to rape, and who always depends on male character. So she is not given the right to defend herself or to be independent. So some people, you know, interpreters, see that this story doesn't show woman in a good way. So you read this. This is the last paragraph on this slide. Okay. Then other lessons that we learn from this story. This is also something. Some of this is mentioned before. اللي هو moral lesson. This is also repeated again and again. How, you know, this story, you know, teaches, you know, teaching, you know, children a moral lesson. How to be obedient. How to, you know, listen to your mother's words and to your mother's directions. How to, you know, to be, you know, independent. How to act with strangers. Okay, how to, you know, how to be, you know, let's say, how to act in a way that, you know, makes you look good in front of the others. So you have to take this as a first lesson, moral lesson. Here we come to here the main major lessons, the main major lessons we learn. Number one here is not to talk to strangers, which is, you know, a direction or something that, you know, people in the West and in the States emphasize a lot to their children. They always, you know, tell their children not to talk to strangers, okay, to be away from strangers, because it's dangerous to talk to strangers, and this may lead to troubles and may lead to death. Okay, so this is the first lesson. And then lesson two, listen to your mother. Okay, always children are advised to listen to their parents in general, mothers, fathers, whoever. Then number three is watch out for yourself. To question grandma and observe her appearance to determine if it is truly her. When she discovered it wasn't, she ran away. That means, you know, to take care of yourself. And if you are in a trouble, you have to know how to act, okay, to run away or to do something clever that, you know, saves your life or your life and the life of other people with you, if you can. Then last and not least, of course, don't send your child into the woods. And that's, of course, for parents, for mothers, okay, and for you know, mas or pas, not to send their children into the woods alone. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood's mother hadn't sent her, she hadn't sent her daughter into the dangerous woods alone, she couldn't have prevented the grandma from being eaten. Parents should be careful, Parents should be careful about what they allow their children to do. So not to send them alone into dangerous places, into the woods or wherever. Okay, so that is the end of this lecture. You please, again, I emphasize that you should read the story itself and, you know, make sure you understand it. when it comes to questions for the final exams, there will be questions, you know, from the text itself, and from the story, and about the story, the discussion of the story. That's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you soon in our next lecture. Assalamu alaikum.